Hi, this is Rook with Mostly Harmless, and today I wanted to share with you one of the great internal projects that some of our members are working on. This in particular is by Nosferatu or DiamondProcs. He has a wealth of knowledge about the game. He's very interested and invested in the game. He is taking a bit of a break right now, like a lot of people, for the next wipe, but he's got a lot of neat stuff to share. So I'm actually just going to be reading through some of the stuff on the forums. We're going to cross-post this to the Albion online forums, and this is publicly available on our website as well. Um, we're not looking for new players to the game necessarily to attract them and stuff, but we do want to help them in the community. We want to make sure that they're able to get the most out of this game, and so it's not just about helping our guild. We want to help other people. There's a lot of good people playing. The game itself is not for everybody. It has a bit of a grind, which a lot of us find relaxing, but it's not for everybody. However, imagine if you're me. I like some MOBAs. I'm not amazing at them, but I like them. And now imagine a MOBA type game in some aspects with a persistent world and the ability to have these fights that mean something. I like in particular the yellow zone fights. So if you do a guild versus guild in the yellow zone, you don't have to be hardcore. You can play and have fun in this game at various levels. Hardcore, you go out in the black zone, you have to be in your best gear with a large group of people and be able to dominate that way. They play a lot of hours and do very well that way, and congrats to them. We're more in that, there's green zone guilds. They tend to stay more to the green and yellow, and they play and have fun and gather stuff and putter around and craft. Good for them as well. And we're sort of at that middle of the road that we feel like Goldilocks and the Three Bears is just right. That we want to play, we want to be competitive, but I don't have time to get to the highest tier of gear and still spend time with my family. So, and I do like to PvP, so we're aiming more for those yellow zone guild versus guild where I can wear some 5.3 armor and be equivalent to somebody else. So it's a bit of fame and stuff, but I can play, try lots of different things, and have fun in the game. Um, and also the yellow zone dungeons, we've been having a lot of fun in those. But to do any of that, you need to know what gear to wear and what is best. And that is the cool part of this game. Like in, say, Guild Wars 1, where you could put together different packages, different, your 5 skills. You can do the same thing here. You can mix and match and put together a different set of skills to achieve different results. So let's take a look at what Nosferatu, DiamondProc here, has put together for the group. It's just incredible stuff. A lot of work went into this. And he's got some very good points that he addresses here about the different abilities. For instance, we'll start with the heavy helm. So this is the heavy line. All of these armors and systems are about to change a little bit in the next couple of months, the developers have said. We'll be able to share more of that in the future, I'm sure. But at the moment, this is what's going on in March 2016, and it's still amazing that even just the way it is right now, but it's about to get even better. So Stone Skin, one of the primary and most useful abilities on the heavy helm. This is especially useful for tanks, quarterstaff users, healers. It's utilized when you're expect to be focused. It'll lower your attack damage by 50%. So you don't want to use it as a heavy damage person and stuff, but it can save you, especially when you combine that with there's the focus fire mechanics in the game that if you're being focused down by 4 people or more, or 3 people or more even, the damage starts to lower for each of those individual people. It still might come out to an overall total that's bigger, but if you have like 10 people focusing you, you're actually probably going to survive longer than if you had 2 or 3 attacking you. And then you add in this big buff to your armor and magic resist, and you'll last a long time. I've got several good examples of fights where I pop that at the last second and survive. Um, Emergency heal, again, another good option for 1 versus 1 combat, is what Nosferatu is saying here. Many times when he's looking to kill someone, he'll save this heal for the correct moment, and then he can turn the tide of the fight. It also offers a small radius heal that can be useful in small groups to give everyone a little extra hit points during a fight or while regrouping. I I personally like that for PvE potentially. Use it in a PvP guild versus guild. We do some internal practices, and we just got rolled because we all gathered up for the heal and then just got smoked. So not necessarily useful for PvP unless you're able to get far enough back as you should. Retaliate. Now, Diamond here is saying that it's kind of a niche spell. It honestly can be useful for PvP and PvE, but it compromises your armor resist for what he finds to be a rather lackluster Thorn effect. In his personal experience, the defensive spells have outweighed the offensive Retaliate. I actually do like it for some PvE and for some PvP, depending on the situation. In PvE, I use it against archers, the marksmen, and they'll do their spike, and I'll just pop that and basically insta-kill them with their own damage. The same thing if you've got a dagger person or a curse person that's about to try and spike you down, you pop that. You might die, but you'll kill them too. So it's a potential option. Um, the passives, very interesting here. I really like his points. Reflection reflects 2% of all incoming damage back to its source. Toughness, armor, and magic resist increase by 12, or Constitution increases your hit points by 80. Reflection is pretty useless stat, unfortunately, at the moment. While it seems to synergize with Retaliate, the actual spell, it just doesn't do enough damage. So it's not worth it compared to the other two. So you're not going to pick that, unfortunately. Generally speaking, in this game, there's a lot of good options. So you always are faced with a choice. Do I want a Berserker Helm on my heavy guy so I can wait in there with my axe and do more damage and pop that? Or do I want that Stone Skin so I can pop that when I'm being focused because I am up front? And I like that. You want to have those kind of choices where you're fighting to decide what you're going to do. Reflection, though, at the moment isn't quite there. So people aren't using that very much. It just doesn't do enough. But the toughness and constitution actually give about equal mitigation. Now, um, he's saying pick the one you like best. I'd argue a little bit differently. There's two things in my mind. Back from the Eve days, of course, effective hit points was always very important. And you'll have, I believe, more effective hit points with the Constitution bonus. So you'll have a higher hit point total. And then when you get focus fired by a few people, you will last longer, because that will bump up your resist anyways. And the toughness I like more for PvE, where I'm going to get constant healing and stuff. In PvP, I don't get healed. I get healed when I run back to the group, because I'm usually so far forward in their back line that if any healer's near me, that healer is dead. So it's up to me to get back to them, and I need the hit points to survive for that. Personal opinion, it requires more testing. I would love input. Just certainly put your comments on this video or in the forums here. Let us know what your experience has been. You probably have more information than us, so that's great. Medium Helm, it has some really neat abilities here. Just like the heavy, the Unstoppable makes you immune to crowd control effects for 5 seconds. Now, it's a free energy cost. That's important to note, is that a lot of these certain helms are all free here at the moment. That could change, of course. These are sort of long-term abilities, long cooldown. Now, Diamond here is rating this one as bad, semi-useful. While being immune to CC seems like a no-brainer, he's found in testing this simply not lived up to the other Helm's abilities. On paper and through further testing, it could seem a very good spell that could find its way someday. Basically, there's some little problems where you try it, say there's an axe thrower giant, she's throwing her axe at you, and I'd have to double check, but a month ago when I was trying this ability, at that time you were getting still affected by that ability. You could cast it. You couldn't cast it once you were CC because you're already knocked out. It's not like the chest persevere that we'll talk about later, but it is an option there. So I wouldn't. I'd agree with him that it's not necessarily as good. You have to cast it. Say a bear is about to attack you and do its knockout in that PvE situation. I'll pop that and then I won't be hit by it. So option there not to be knocked out. But you'd have to get it on before you get affected by the crowd control, and it's better just not to be hit by the crowd control if you can. Meditation. This has some interesting potential. It's got a long cooldown, but it basically knocks 10 seconds off of the cooldown of your abilities. So you have a 10-second cooldown, you can basically insta-cast those things twice, or if you have 15 seconds, of course, it's down to 5. So I think it's good potential for spike damage. And that's what I think Diamond is saying here, too, is that as a healer, actually, he's saying it was very nice because he could do back-to-back Desperate Prayers. It also grants great cooldown relief for abilities, as we were saying. And it's good for niche builds, is what he's saying, that it's an overall skill, but you might be able to find better to replace it. So that's why he's got it sort of like a yellow marker, and here Unstoppable, he's got a lower rating, and then Defenseless Rush on the medium helm, one of the most popular abilities at the moment. It's used on all of our scouts. tackle kind of situations that we want that ability so they can get up close and personal really quickly. Increase your move speed by 72%, but reduces your armor by minus 61 for 5 seconds. So um, it's several reasons. Diamond's explaining why it's good here. It has great gap closing potential, although it lowers your armor. You typically use it because you need to close or extend a gap. So usually you won't find yourself casting this in an actual fight, but rather to maybe cap a stone in GVG or escape while you're gathering and or farming. All the speed buffs stack. So you could have Defenseless Helm, you could have an Axe W skill that gives you a boost, or the Quarterstaff Stun Run speed boost, and your abilities on your boots will all stack to give you a very high speed rating at the moment. So it's a potentially very useful skill to tackle or to get away. You can go faster than horses, basically. That the horse whisperer, as some people have called in the past with some good builds. So passives, uh, interesting points here, and you can see he's got move speed buff as the one of choice in his opinion, and authority as the lower one. Move speed pretty much is king in the passive tree, is what Diamond's saying here, that although the passives are small, movement speed is one of the most important aspects of the game. There's also a good reason why defenseless rush is so important. The ability to actually catch someone and lock them down is what currently dominates the state of the game. Also the root prison on the chest. Now his experience with things like CC duration and movement impairing effects is that once you get caught, unless you have an ability like Blink, you are pretty much in trouble. So these small reduced CC amounts are why move speed is generally takes the cake. So proper positioning and the use of move speed rather than getting out of being caught or using the authority and stuff. Now I could see the authority, like you might, as you'll see later, like the light passives give you increased CC duration as well. So you might want the authority on the, like say you've got a light chest and then you've got a medium helm and medium boots, maybe to give you either move speed or to give you increased CC duration. There might be some options. There is some diminishing returns in CC now, so it might get to a point in the game where, since the diminishing returns can maybe reduce your, say, 2 stacks of CC stuff applied by different people by 50%, then you might want the CC duration so that you've got somebody with an incredible CC and it is lasting longer. So you could build a leather build that way, and we'll see how that changes in the future. Onto the light helm. This is increasing your magical attack power by 50%, but reduces your move speed by 75% for 8 seconds. So this is magic focus. Again, a free energy cost at the moment, as with the other helms. Magic focus is a really good spell that can really boost your damage. The core issue here is the 8-second move speed reduction by 75%. This creates an extremely niche fit for this spell, maybe for dropping a meteor on a castle defense, but honestly, he'd say there's better options, and I can see that. Now, PvE, don't need to move, you got a good tank, maybe a good option. Energy regain. So a channeled spell that replenishes energy greatly. This is huge. Energy is, of course, an essential part of the game. If you don't manage it or can't balance it out, or if you're in a longer sustained fight, usually it's the lack of energy that will decide the fight. So I've even brought this with me and had it on a second thing instead of using potions, and I pop this on, get the energy back that I need, and go that way. And that's pretty much what Diamond's saying too. Anytime you can get free energy regain, has to be considered one of the better options. The potions in the game take a 5-minute cooldown to get energy back, and they cost money. Whereas this 1-minute cooldown, it's pretty awesome. Berserker stance. Now here, totally understand what Diamond's saying, that as an alternative to magic focus, this would take the cake by far. It's increasing your actual magical and physical damage by 38% for the loss of armor only, and it's for 10 seconds. Light helms are really hard not to like when it comes to being offensive, so just makes sense that that it increases your damage by that much. And again, if you're properly positioned, then the damage or the armor reduction isn't going to hurt you too much. Or if you're a tank, your armor's so high that maybe you can pop this and increase your damage and wield that axe or scythe or sword or something and get some good damage going on. Now, in terms of passives, aggression and charity, pretty straightforward. Diamond saying here that increased damage or heals by 5%. Cast speed. Now, there's different opinions on this. He's arguing that that he would rather quality over quantity. Um, but there are things like meteors and other things that take a long time to cast. Um, that he would argue that it might be worthwhile to have, or the channeled abilities that actually will get you another channel off, and possibly more. So I know and Bold has argued in his healing video that it's well worthwhile to go with that instead. So that's the helms. Let's see if I've got time to do. Okay, let's keep going. This is the chest piece. Um, let's talk about mend wounds. It's available in all the skills. It is very good when you're starting out and don't know the game yet. Once you know the game, once you got some friends, once you got some soups, you're gonna put this aside because you can only do this when you're not in combat. Now, I think it's a good skill. I think that's probably the way you want to have it done because you want there to be a use for healers. You don't want people to be able to heal and do all their own heals and stuff, or else the healers just don't have a place in the game. For green and yellow zone farming of mobs, he's saying it, but no one in our guild is allowed to bring this on them when we're going out for an actual group. It's period. Like it's just not an acceptable use of skills on your builds. Like you should have something better, something more useful in case we get into PvP. Um, Here he's mentioning that the noise alone attracts PvPers. Any of the heals and the fleas or boots skills using food are really loud in a zone. You can hear them for a fairly long ways away, and we'll use the people with better hearing to try and find who we should be going to kill. So be aware of that, especially if you're out in a yellow or red zone or black. Um, Now, he is saying that you can use pies to keep up your gathering speed, so then you wouldn't be able to use a soup to do your heal in between fights, because soup works the same way. It heals you in between fights, it increases your regen. So it's certainly worth keeping in mind. Um, okay, so here we're into the Journeyman's Plate Armor, and some of the stats here as they were a little while ago. Increases hit points by 135. This is the passives. Armor and magic resist increased by 23, or reflects 5% of all incoming damage back to its source. And the Persevere is one of the skills here. I think there's not much to be said about this that we haven't said already in the helm discussion. So let's move on to Persevere. Removes crowd control and other negative effects from you and applies a shield. Cooldown's 30 seconds. Energy is only 22. It's useful for just about anything, especially PvE, I would say. Persevere is great for not only giving a shield, which is in effect works with the heavy elm for mitigation, but it also breaks crowd control. So you say you are stunned or rooted, you could use this spell to break out of it while shielding. Very useful if you are a DPS. So yeah, heavy up front and looking to move around and stuff. With gathering, this acts more for a mitigation tool with the shield and possible escape tool if someone stuns you. If you're a gatherer, I would probably say heavy is nice due to high armor, yet escapes are lacking with this armor type. And two, think about it too. If you put this on you're on a horse or you're on an ox, the ox of course increases your defenses above what they already are. So you're wearing heavy armor, you got high defense already, like 80% damage mitigation, potentially, or 70 something percent damage mitigation. And then you put yourself on an ox, now you're up in the low to mid 80s, and so you're not taking much damage at all. Then when your ox or horse dies, you have all your skills immediately available if you wait till it dies. You punch Persevere because they pop a stun on you, and you've got an option to get away, to break out of whatever they've stunned you with at the last. Um, so potential CC break. Now pull area, as Diamond's saying here, that it's a great combination spell with Root Prison. So one person's got that, one person's got the other potentially. Though he would say that Root Prison would be more effective, even multiple, to chain those. And pull area is not totally useless or anything. Magic's just shown me recently how he's used that as an interrupt in PvE. So we're fighting some kind of mobs and stuff. They're about to do their archer attacks or spells, and he uses that to interrupt in a group of spells. It's pretty finicky at the moment. So you have to stand right on the mob or have them on the outer edge about 4 to 5 meters away. If they're at that 2 meter range, they're right beside you basically, or 1 meter range maybe it is. That's where they're pulled to or pushed to. They're not pulled right on top of you. So that's a minor thing that I don't care for in the ability. I would rather they were pulled straight on top of you, everything around you, and that you don't want to be standing right on top of them. That's simpler, and it seems to me like that's what the spell should do. It shouldn't push people away from you and out to the side a little bit, but that's just my take on it, and that's why I generally don't use it. And you don't see it used very often in the game, for possibly for that reason. But it could be a very good spell depending on how it changes in the future. Root Prison is the main skill. You're either using it to stop PvE mobs from getting into your lines, or to stop, more importantly, to stop players. So you will basically make sure that no melee can move around and do damage and stuff, or to hold down a back line of an enemy team that's got some staffs and stuff so that your guys can get up to them. So it is the standard to be used. There are a few healers in the game that use heavy chests. The majority will be tanks, and he's strongly suggesting Root Prison for trapping enemies and trying to ensure a kill. Now he's saying it's really useful for PvE. Locking down mobs for your group to easily target is sweet. And it can also keep melee mobs far enough away so you can hit them while they can't hit you. So onto the medium armor. So you see some of the stats here, and how, of course, there's a 25% bonus to all the damages and stuff, and CC duration. So that's basically the way it works at the moment. Is heavy. There's no bonuses to anything, but you have the option to get more hit points, the option to add more armor resist. You don't have that option on the other armors. All the armors have the same energy, hit points, magic resist. Sorry, not magic resist, but just hit points and energy is the same no matter what piece of armor you're wearing. It's just that the heavy one has the options to make it even bigger and badder. So, but on that note, and then the light, of course, is what gives the plus 50% instead of plus 25%. So it's really simple, but it's really cool. Very effective. Again, he's saying move speed. We've seen those passives. 20% increased CC duration. It could be useful for warbow stuns, he's saying, but he's saying movement speed, that plus 5%. And remember that movement speed, your horse takes your base movement speed and increases that. So on your horse, on your ox, all those things you're faster too. Fade out. Interesting ability. Grants invisibility for 5 seconds, removes movement and parrying effects, but gives you a 20% move speed penalty for 5 seconds. Now, if you hit your flee or defenseless rush or anything beforehand, then you get those buffs. They last as long as they last, and then you get your 20% penalty within that. So you can move quickly if you do everything in the right order. Diamond's saying here that not the most recommended in a PvE scenario. It can be very useful if you get focused by mobs. Fade out will cause you to vanish, and it will cancel any channel made on you by the mob. Stuns from an axe throwing giant, that kind of thing. I was surprised that even like a crossbow arrow, like something that's I consider like an AOE that would go through me, went through me the other day with that effect. So there is some stuff going on that way that I certainly want to double check. Whereas a root prison will still keep you prisoned and expose you. So if they know where you are, you're dead from the AOE and stuff. So it's useful too when you're fighting multiple mobs and you want to basically kill one mob, but you can't kill two at a time. So you're doing some solo work. You kill the one mob, you fade out. That gets rid of the aggro. The mob moves away and gets all its health back, and you reset yourself and then go back in to kill the other one. So it's an option that way. And be aware, the biggest trick or scam sort of in the game is that people will, and I always check to see if anyone's wearing medium when I'm near some yellow zone elites. The elite mobs, when they kill you, you lose your stuff. You die, you're on the ground, you're dead. And what people will do is they will hit one of these mobs. They will then run with that mob right beside you. Then they'll fade out. They lose aggression, but that mob will aggress on whoever is nearby unless it's leashed. So it aggresses on you, it kills you, the mob goes back after you're dead, and they take all your stuff. Be aware of that. That's very important to know. Mobs are more dangerous than players in many ways in the game. So So he's saying here that one of the best spells for gatherers, especially in dangerous zones, when trouble comes, you can fade out and mount up, offering you a chance to escape on horse. And that is a commonly used tactic, is to mount up with it. Like Perseverance in PvP, it has an interesting play where it can cancel player channels. So if someone's shooting a spell at you and you fade out, it will cancel whatever is about to come to you. Trembling Aura, he gives it a minor rating, and I can see why. That I like the fact that it's a pulsating effect around you, but and it lasts for 10 seconds. So it's unlike a lot of other slows that will, they're when you look at the details, their stats, like you hit inventory, you look at details, you see CC resistance is up around 65 to 75%. That means that 10-second slow only lasts for 4 seconds, maybe 3. Now this stays around you for 10 seconds, slowing them by 44%. So it could be really useful, but there's a slight when you pop it, it just stops you for a second. So you're trying to chase somebody, and now you're a little bit slower yourself because you've had that slight delay in the casting of the spell. It's not instant, although it says it is instant, and now you're further behind, and you don't catch up enough to have the effect take place. So it's situational as to how you use it. Um, Great item to use with Great Hammer for stacking slows. At the same time, probably a second option to the other aura. Enfeeble is what he's saying. Um, I like the idea though of stacking it with the 10-second slow on the hammer. I hadn't thought about that. That would really slow people down for sure. So interesting idea. Um, and then the Enfeeble aura reduces all damage done by enemies around you by 60% for 7 meters. I thought it was, oh yeah, it is 7 meters, and lasts for 5 seconds. Uh, can be utilized for killing large packs, boss fights. Be really useful to mitigate 6% of damage around you, of course. And ditto for the PvP. Using the aura during fights could really mitigate a lot of damage happening. If someone like a mace gets in the back line, silences, and then follows up right after with this aura, it essentially cripples their DPS. So I think it's an amazing spell. It's got a nice cooldown, good energy cost. It's a really good option, and that's what you want. You want every option to be good, so that you're always like, should I take this or should I take that? And the meta's going to change. Like right now, this might be awesome, but later, maybe the Trembling Aura will be essential depending on how things change. But right now, you can do most of that with Root Prison on the chest. My voice is fading. Sorry, Mr. Beer. It's free coffee night at McDonald's, and it's a bit early in the morning, so I'm having coffee instead. Um, okay, light armor. Chest, you can see the plus 50%. Of course, health and energy is going to be the same. Item power is another stat we can talk about a different time. But some interesting stats here. I think we've already talked about aggression, charity, and swift mind, that increasing cast speed. I think all three are probably equally useful in different cases. So um, force field, as you can see, green star for this one. Um, Now he's saying here that he thinks Ice Block is superior in terms of PvE due to its ability to save you more than any other spell. This ability is actually not bad if you have a sprint ready. It will knock back mobs a pretty far distance for you to plan your escape, and it does damage at the same time. So and it's an interrupt too. So I've used that on the fire mages and stuff when they're about to pop their shield that makes them hard to kill. You can dodge the meteor. Usually you can move around or that, but I like stopping their shield or else I can't kill them sometimes in low gear. When gathering, it could be a useful tool for knocking back potential PKers or mobs to try to mount up for your escape. And during PvP, you can reposition enemies or knock them away. It's a fairly effective method, especially if claws are on you, you can knock them away. So, really good skill. Ice Block, slightly lower energy cost, higher cooldown though, 40 seconds. And it lasts for, I think it's 8 seconds. It's a pretty good channel there that stops people from getting on you. And PvE Ice Block is great, essentially, especially for healers, because when you get focused, your team has a chance to save you in most cases. And PvP, it's really good with Ice Block because you can be CC'd, and some of the dots might still work on you, I believe, but it can also be used in a couple of cases, such as preventing deaths, curse damage, as well as a slit throat. So those big spike damages that are coming in, you can pop it and stop that. Whereas the knockback isn't going to help you against a ranged person. You would need to blink out of the way. Blink, again, And this is perfect. All three of these skills are equally useful. It's a no-brainer that you. Well, sorry, it is a hard decision, and that's what you want in any of these games. Blink can be used as a great escape tool. Combined with Sprint, you can get away from mobs. It will not cancel spells coming your way, though. Gathering, really superb escape. Combine this with Flea Boots and Defenseless Rush Helm, you'll be virtually uncatchable. Great for repositioning yourself for escaping vital damage in PvP. A lot of using Blink in PvP comes down to timing. Timing can be essential to surviving or securing a kill. Excuse me. We will use this on scouts and stuff. Oh, I see there's a glare from the window coming in right on my head. Oh well, nobody's looking at that anyways. Um, anyways, it's a really potentially useful skill. So, and I think that's most of his work. Oh, he's got all the shoes here too. Well, that's actually pretty easy at the moment. Facts about the shoes. They all have the passives where you can increase your gathering. The run, which is increase move speed by 50% for 7 seconds, and gathering flee. No brainer. This is one of the new skills they introduce. It's amazing. Don't use run, just trust me. Increase your move speed by 120% and your max load by 99 for 8 seconds. After activation, you can cast spells. You can't cast spells for 15 seconds. So it's got that basically purple silence that goes over your head, sort of indicated there. It's just essential for gathering. Make sure you keep the energy so that you can use it. And pop anything else you're going to pop right before you pop that. And let's see what it says here. Oh, it looks like he's got some of the other skills maybe. Energetic sprint. And really need to be able to move, get rid of the 5 second. Oh, sorry, this is one that gives energy. Okay, that's interesting. He's got this as a pretty good rating, and refreshing sprint he doesn't have. I like that cooldown reduction. That 5 second cooldown reduction is, it doesn't say it that way, but that's what it does is reduce your cooldowns by about 5 seconds. The idea is you spend energy to get lower cooldown costs, which synergize well with the medium helm's ability for meditation. Just remember this is spending energy to allow that to happen. Totally makes sense, but I like it for spiking, so it's potentially really good. Now, this is a good point. It's a free sprint for the energetic sprint. Mana cost is a big deal in this game, and any ability you can cast for free is always welcome in this game. Okay, yeah, it might have convinced me there to change that up. So that's good. Let's look quickly at the last bit, Rush. I'm assuming you're going to say Rush is pretty awesome. One of the better abilities in the game right now, other than free sprint with light boots. Mobility is king, and I like mobility in most games. So, and overall, a decent ability that gives great CC resist can be useful for any type of crowd control, but the cost of the ability is a high energy cost. Okay, 23, yeah. I can't really recommend using this ability until proven otherwise. Okay, yeah, certainly would like feedback on that if people feel differently about it. And gosh, I really like the way these look. Look at that with the tree as to where to go and stuff. Very good job, my friend. Rejuvenating sprint, so a nice little boost to hit points while sprinting. Not something to build around. He's saying it's not that much health, and in sports, sometimes it comes down to the final yard. In esports, it could come down to the final HP. Every little bit of mitigation counts. Not a terrible item. Defensive sprint, though, I really like. Like, it really gives a nice boost. This is a nice little stone skin boot. Not ideal for gathering, yet can be used for hides. So gathering leather, yeah. Mainly this could be good for sprinting away or into while taking damage from multiple targets. You really want to use this when there are multiple mitigation factors. Otherwise, the hit points would probably be more useful. Yeah, and I would say I like the defensive sprint more. I'll even use that in PvE sometimes as the tank because you're trying to sort of push back and get away from some trouble, and at the same time, you've just given yourself that extra resist to help you survive while you're getting to the back. So And that's it. And then later on, we talk about how we should make this into a video. I'm sorry that weren't available today to do this. I just wanted to certainly get this done. Um, but Diamond, thanks very much for putting this all together and letting us put this out to the community. We certainly want everybody to enjoy the great work that you put together. It'll help the community. We're always looking for new members. We would like people that are already experienced in the game a little bit, so that you know that it's definitely the game for you and stuff. And then we'll have some fun with you, do some PvP, and get out there and enjoy this great game. This is Rook with Mostly Harmless, and we'll see you out on the battlefield.